Hi, I'm Scott Bogren, Editor-in-Chief of DigitalCT magazine, and I'd like to welcome you to one of our favorite editions of every year, our State Transit Tour edition, this one focusing on Oregon. Rich Sampson, the editor of DigitalCT magazine, and we toured 8 different transit stops across the western third of Oregon in late April of this current year. And we are pleased to, at long last, bring you the collected articles from that trip. We began in Portland, and not with TriMet or with the urban transit operations in Portland, but with a stop to Ride Connection. Ride Connection is a volunteer-based, multi-purpose transportation provider that is doing all sorts of innovative work when it comes to partnerships, technology, and really being able to provide cost-effective transportation. We took a ride on a trip to a dialysis clinic, which is also a focus of the Ride Connection trip, and that's really where we spent the first day. Day 2 of the trip found us along the Pacific coast. First, we were in Tillamook, Oregon, and there we were visiting with Doug Pillant and working with the Tillamook County Transportation District. And afterwards, we went south into Newport, Oregon, where we were dealing with Lincoln County Transit. Both these systems are put together into one story that talks about the individual operations they have in these rural communities along the beautiful Oregon Pacific coast, but also talks about how these two and a number of other systems in the northwest part of the state have banded together to form a regional operation that is really second to none and is worth your time to take a read, because we think this is a great model for how a lot of rural regions can both connect with each other and also connect with more urbanized and central job and economic engines nearby. Really neat piece, and we're really pleased with the way those stories came out. Day 3 of the trip found us not too far from the California border, down in Klamath Falls, Oregon, where we were visiting with Basin Transit. Basin Transit is a rural transit operation that is centered in Klamath Falls, also serves into the suburbs. And what we found most unique about Basin Transit was its emphasis on community involvement. Here is a rural operation that truly understands its role and its goal of communicating the value of rural public transportation, not just to passengers and riders, but they view the customer in Klamath Falls and in Basin Transit as everybody that lives in the community, and they do some really outstanding work in making those kinds of connections happen. Next, we headed a little west to Medford, Oregon, where we visited with the Rogue Valley Transit District. Rogue Valley is a small urban operator. This was the end of day 3. And really, Rogue Valley is a system that recently had to scale back service, but within the face of that scaling back is exploring so many dynamic changes to the operation. Everything from some really great work in the NEMT, or non-emergency medical transportation world, and also even looking at BRT and some larger types of services along a very linear kind of linear geographic service pattern between some communities in and around the Medford area. We also would note that Medford had some of the greatest bike rack boarding and usages that in all the state trips we've done over the years we've seen. So there's a lot to really recommend when it comes to the Medford and Rogue Valley Transit District story. Day 4 saw 3 stops, so it was a very busy day, and 3 small urban areas running up the Willamette Valley, heading north back towards Portland. First was Eugene, Oregon. Lane Transit District is Eugene is the second largest city in Oregon, home to the University of Oregon, and the Lane Transit transit district has a wide variety of services. We focus a lot of what we talk about in the article on what's probably most unique, which is its MX service, which is a fully functioning BRT service with its own right-of-way in some areas, and just really high-end bus service to the kind of the highest levels. Next up was 40 miles to the north into Corvallis, Oregon, home to Oregon State University, which is Oregon's big rival, or those two are big rival universities. Again, a small urban area, a little smaller than Eugene. There we met with both the urban operator and also with the rural operator that operated into the surrounding county outside of Corvallis. Interesting thing to note here, Corvallis in the city has a fuel fee, an energy fee that everyone pays with their electricity bill. All homeowners do, and businesses, and that allows the system to run in a fareless environment. They were quick to tell us it's not fare free, because it's not free. People are paying for the service. It's just it's a fareless environment. Also, for the county-based system in the Benton County, more rural system, you see a system that's very much involved in connecting the outer suburbs and rural communities into Corvallis. And so you see both work trips and kind of commuter operations, but also, again, a lot of seniors, people with disabilities, and other social services being able to come into Corvallis and get access to all of what the bigger city offers. Last on day 4 was our trip up to Salem, the state capital, and Chariots, which serves the Salem region, is a large urban operation. Of note, an operation that really has been able to withstand and get past a lot of hurdles and is really looking towards today winning local support to be able to add some service back on the weekends and on evening service. And also, we were just amazed at the quality of the varying facilities in and around Chariots and their ability to communicate and win back this service is predicated on adding some funding. And they're going about that in a very kind of transparent and inclusive way in terms of bringing on the customer base, bringing on their customers. And that's customers writ large, not just riders, but the business community and other customers into trying to win support. And last, on Friday, before we flew back to the D.C. area, we met, and you'll see a podcast with Aaron Antrim from Trillium, which is a technology firm. And Aaron really gave me a way to kind of put some context to what we saw across the state of Oregon. He talked about meaningful connections, and I use that, as you'll see, in the commentary piece that leads off this edition, and that's really talks about what we saw all across Oregon, whether rural, urban, small urban, fixed route, demand response, bus rapid transit. What we saw was a commitment to making these connections meaningful. We saw a lot of systems that understood their customers and were definitely customer focused. We saw a lot of systems that had tried new things, that were not afraid of taking risks. Some of them had failed and had learned from those failures. And we saw time and again as we met with systems, they failed once. Some of them failed twice before that third time or that second time was where they had that success. They learned from these things. So there was a perseverance or even kind of a resoluteness to what we saw across the state that we were really gratified to hear, and more importantly, really happy to be able to share with you, our readers, in this, the Oregon Transit Tour edition. I hope you enjoy the edition, and please feel free to provide and drop me any notes at bogren@ctaa.org. I'd love to hear from you about what you liked, what you'd like us to see cover in the future. Of course, our magazine is always your voice, and we thank you for being a reader of Digital CT Magazine.